Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Enroute webinar. My name's Bennett. I'll be the moderator for today, and our presenter is Aaron Clapp, Application Specialist at SAI. He knows everything there is to know about Enroute, and today he'll be walking us through the new features in the latest release of Enroute. After the presentation, we'll be able to answer any questions you have, either about Enroute 23 or any other Enroute topics. So feel free to put those questions in the chat, and we'll answer as many as we can. We are recording the webinar as always, so if you want to review anything that Aaron discusses, we'll be sending you the link to the recording this afternoon, so look out for that in your emails. And that's it for me, so I'll turn it over to Aaron.
All right, so we got a new version of Enroute out, and there's a lot of new features. We wanted to kind of quickly and just show some of those off, and we won't be going into a ton of detail on how each one of these works, but if you do go to our YouTube channel or you go to thinksai.com and then click on what's new for Enroute, you can actually see a few small videos on either YouTube or our website that will show kind of a small clip on how each one of these tools work. Now, of course, we're going to be doing webinars specifically for a lot of these tools. So if you want more of a deep dive, stay tuned for those. But today I'm going to kind of fly through some of these because I want to give you the best overview of some of the new features in Enroute 23. So let's get started. So the first one that we want to mention is our user interface. Now, the user interface is going to look very similar to Enroute 7. And that user interface was customizable, but now we have an option in our software to be able to set up your own user interface. So in the Help menu, Setup Manager, this was here before, but it didn't really have this interface. This was something where you could do if you knew how to edit an XML file, but now we have a nice user interface for this to do this with. You can customize anything you want. You can customize your shortcuts. You can customize what shows up in your menus up here. So like your draw, transform, surfaces. You can change every one of those things. You can select a menu, change what's inside of it. So for example, my file menu, my relief, mesh, surfaces, I can change all that. Or I can edit my toolbars. So I can create new toolbars, remove toolbars. I can customize everything I want. So this is really nice because now it has a user interface that you guys can use. You can customize your Enroute to whatever you want it to be. So that's going to be a really nice feature for you guys, especially making it much easier to customize your shortcuts and the way that you use Enroute, because each one of you has a different way of using the software and you use different tools. And so whatever the priority for your tools are, it would be really nice. And now you have the ability to create your own custom toolbars or a custom toolbar with all your favorite tools. So this is something that's new in Enroute. And you can save these and import them up through the Help menu and whatnot right through here. So you've got all your setup options and things here. So you can go back to the original or use the Setup Manager to create new ones. So we'll be diving into that at some point. But that's a really nice new feature, is complete customization of the software. Another big one is going to be profile tools. Now I'm pretty excited about this one as well because this has been a feature request that a lot of people have had over the years. It's been a highly requested item from our users. So this comes directly from you guys, and it is profile tools. We now support profile tools in Enroute. Now before, profile tools were always kind of a little bit of a gray area in Enroute. So if we go to our setup menu and you go to tool library, we never really had the ability to create custom tools in Enroute. You had a few, you always had the option to create like a user-defined tool, but it was hard to kind of get it to work. So now we have the new option for custom tools and profile tools. So this is the icon for that, and this is what it looks like. What I wanted to show you just real quick was how we can do that. So I actually have a tool here that I've created, and I think I'm going to delete it so that you guys can kind of see here. Let's go to this one, and we'll delete that one, and we'll recreate this one. All right. So how do we do this? Well, the nice thing is that you can take any tool that you want, and usually manufacturers will have the tools already for you. Now, this is just highlighting one particular one that I just had found, but Amana tools will often allow you to download the DXF files. And this is probably the case with a lot of tool manufacturers these days. And when you download that DXF file, you can pull that into Enroute. So what I want to do is open a new file, and let's see. I'm going to open this up here. So what I've done is I imported the DXF file. Now there's a bunch of measurements and other things that I didn't necessarily need, but I just grabbed the profile part of the tool. And then what I did is I saved it as an ROU file. So that's going to be how you create these custom tools, right? So you bring in the DXF, or you create the profile, or you import the profile, you set it up into the file, and then we save it as an ROU file. Now I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'm going to go into a blank file, and this is easy as going into our setup menu here. Go to Tool Library, click New, Profile. We're going to call this Amana tool, and then all I have to do is click Set Profile. Here's my tool. Hit Open, and just like that, now I have a tool that's exactly defined by the tool that we just created, or that we just saw here on that website. So this is a powerful new tool. Not only that, not only is it good for creating tools, we also now support rendering of these tools. So if I go in here and I choose one of my profile tools, here's another Amana tool that was been added by default in the software. Let's use that one. Okay. And now when we go into our 3D Simulate, zoom in here. It might be a little bit hard to see, but the idea here is that we can now preview any of these custom tools that we've created. Whereas before, you just set them up as an end mill, and then you kind of just had to hope it would work. Now you can create the custom tool in Enroute, and you can preview the custom tool inside the 3D. This is a big game changer for any of you guys who are creating like crown moldings type stuff, or any kind of shaker door, or some kind of a paneled front door or something like that to a cabinet, or any case where you would use a custom profile tool. Now all custom profile tools are supported and are previewable inside the 3D rendering of the tool. So that's a really big one. So that one we're really excited about, and I'm sure you guys are going to take advantage of that one right away. The other one that's kind of related to profile tools is the corner find toolpath. This is a new toolpath that we're introducing in Enroute. And what this will allow us to do, and I've created a file here to kind of help us through this. Here I have kind of what maybe you would call like a door or something like that. This got some inside shapes here. And we can now create, if I use an island fill, I've got my hogging out tool, I've got my profile tool, And then I have a ball end mill here for the fine toolpath. And what this basically does is this allows us to create custom sharp corners. So one of the things that perhaps when using a round over bit or some kind of a profile tool, it would create these rounded corners. And it kind of always gave you the sense that, yeah, this was kind of a door or a shape that was kind of a CNC because of those rounded corners, right? This corner fine tool takes care of that in sharpening the corners. Not only does it sharpen the outside edges now so that you get a nice sharp transition between the corners, but it also does it on the inside of the corners. And we can kind of see that if we go to the perspective view. We zoom in a little bit. You can see here, let's zoom in this corner over here. A little bit too far there. Here's what it's done. Let's zoom out just a little bit. There we go. So this is what that corner fine toolpath has now done. What this has done is it's taken the profile of my tool and it's automatically created a toolpath to clean up and sharpen up this corner with a small little ball end mill. And so that's creating a nicer, sharper corner so you can get those nice sharp corners inside of your file. So if we were to, say, preview this, let's limit our 3D Simulate to the contour here because we don't need to preview the whole thing, and increase our resolution a little bit. The end result here is much sharper corners. And the blue color there is just indicative of our type of toolpath that we're using. But now we're getting nice sharp corners here versus just plain rounded corners in this area right here. So this is a nicer sharp corner. You got the nice sharp corners here as well. So that is our new corner fine toolpath. Again, we'll kind of probably go more in detail about this in another webinar, go through the steps, what are the best practices, that kind of thing. But this is one of the new features in Enroute. So let's pull up a new file. One of the other new things in Enroute is going to be a new texture. So this is probably something if you do 3D a lot. Again, I'm kind of flying through a lot of these steps here. But one of the new options here is peeled pole. Let's go ahead and apply this here. And then we will preview that. So now we have an option for a peeled pole texture, just kind of a unique, nice texture. Kind of gives the feeling of a kind of a rough or rustic kind of furniture, kind of home decor kind of vibe. So this is a new texture for Enroute in 3D spaces. So if you're looking at, or if you're doing a lot of 3D, this is one of the new textures that was added into Enroute. So that is that one there. The other thing that we've added to, and sorry, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. I didn't really organize these in any sort of way, is on the topic of tooling again, we have added the ability for you to add kerf tools. So this is for all you plasma guys or water jet or laser guys. This is going to be the tool that you use for your kerf compensation. So it used to always be that you'd have to set it up as an end mill and you'd have to say kerf and then give it your name, 0.003 or whatever the width was. You had to set it up like this. Now we no longer have to do that. We've added its own tool. So kerf is its own tool now. And you can kind of see here that by default, we've added in a lot more support for a bunch of different curve sizes that you might run into. So for your plasma, or for your water jet, or for your lasers and things like that. So again, another add to tooling that is really kind of a nice feature add for those who use those kinds of machines. Speaking of tool pathing and tools, there's a new option in Enroute for no-lift tool pathing. So this is going to be something we'll go into detail again in the future, but in the preferences, so setup preferences, if we go to our tool path under general, we have the ability to show or not show the no-lift options. So right now, by default, it's unchecked. The reason being, this being a decision where some managers of shops may or may not want to have employees give them the option for low lift. That was kind of some of the feedback that we had gotten from that. And so we have the option here to turn it on or off. If we turn it on, basically what this does is it gives us several new options inside of the tool pathing screen. So we go to routing offset. Let's choose a end mill. And if we go in here under, first of all, we need to set a final depth. So let's put in 0.5. And let's see here. Down here at the end, we see our lift options. So we can have standard, material, value, or none. So this basically gives you some flexibility. So standard will lift up to its standard lift height. Material will lift up to the height of the material, then plunge back down. Value will lift up to a specific value. So I can define that here, how much I want it to lift up between passes, or I can choose none. And this will give me a no lift tool pass. So basically it's going to do one pass, go back to its original start point, and plunge straight down without lifting out of the material. So that is a new option for no lift tool pass and Enroute 2023. The other thing we also have added is a new feature for vectorization. I know a lot of people have asked for color vectorization. That is now a new option inside of Enroute. So let's open up a file here. So I've just pulled in a file here. It's just a JPEG. And now we can more successfully and correctly color trace or vectorize color. So we also added a option for centerline vectorization as well. So now we've got centerline. So this is your standard vectorization that you're typically used to. So you got those options there. Now we've added centerline and color vectorize. So this is a new option here. And this is really nice because before we couldn't really do color. It was always black and white. That was kind of the best thing you had to do. And that is an option available to you now. Another bunch of changes that we've done are to ATP. We're always making changes and updates to ATP, make that process a little bit better for you guys. There's been a few things that we've done. So we've added some new ATP time estimates. So now when it creates the printout for each nested sheet, you're going to get time estimates with that. And those will also be shown in the nesting report when it's finished nesting as well. So those will both be created in there. We've also made some changes to no application. So if you're not using a cabinet application, but you still want to use ATP, you can do that, and that has been improved. So now we've made it easier for you to import parts and to map those things. The process is much simpler, a little bit easier. You can add multiple files. This process is a little bit easier, a little bit less buggy. So we have changed this, updated it, made it more powerful for those who do not use an application like KCD, Cabinet Solutions, or something like that, but still have files that use layers and want to use the power of ATP. So this has been much improved and changed as well. Along with ATP and kind of drivers and things like that, we've also added the ability for you to print out your tool changer option. So in the driver selection right here, you can print out your tool changer. So what this basically does is this will print out all of your tools and the way that you have them set up in your tool changer. So when you have this option open and you have your tools assigned, it'll print out which tools are in which position. It'll also print out the drill bank so that you can have an idea of how you have your drill bank set up and all the different tools that are set up there. Again, this is kind of a quality of life improvement here. So you can kind of get a visual for how you have the tools set up in Enroute. So you have a visual way of seeing that. We also have added a few new features for our snaps. We've got a new option for snap to plate. So now we can easily snap something to the plate if we want to, whereas that wasn't an option before. We also have options for saving. So one of the things that customers had issues with or thought that would be help us or help you guys is if we had options for saving and how to save. So how am I going to save this drawing application? So we have several different options. We can save the active drawing, we can save it to a backup drawing, or we can save the backup to a specific backup path. So if I wanted to create, this is really good for iteration, for example. So if every 10 minutes I wanted to create a new backup, that way you have backups, and if something happens to your existing one, you can go right to the last backup, and then you can just proceed from there. This is something that sometimes would happen where they would forget to save, or maybe they did save, but they lost too much. This way you can have iterations. Or perhaps if you made some changes to the document and you wanted to go back to previous versions of the document, you could actually do that with this option now here. So this is kind of a nice, unique feature for those who are wanting to get a little bit more out of maybe versioning or something like that, or just have a better option for saving files automatically so that you don't lose anything if something happens to your document while you're working on it. Along the same lines of little tools, we've also added under the measure tool, we've added a nice little unit converter. This is just something for your convenience so you can kind of change, do some quick conversions, especially if you're working with like speeds and stuff like that. Converting speeds, your machine might be running in millimeters and you're designing in inches. So having a nice way to kind of convert that inside the software is a nice little tool add as well. Another popular add from the community was to add import options. So you'll be glad to see now that we also support SVG and PNG. So these are two new formats that we offer now. PNG was a big one. We've always supported BMP and JPEG, but now PNG is being added to that list and SVG as well. So this gives you a little more flexibility in terms of the files you can import, especially if it has like a transparent background and things like that. So that's really, really nice for the PNG format as well. So new import options for you guys on the bitmap side. And then lastly but not least here, I will mention the box wizard and the component maker. So the component maker has had a few changes to it. So if you're familiar with the component maker, that is, so we have to have something selected here. and I forget where it's at. I am drawing a blank as to where it's at. So, anyways, in order to speed things along, so component creator, one of the things that you couldn't, or we've added some alignment snaps to the edge of the contour so that when you have a contour like this selected, you can easily snap to the edge without accidentally having like a little gap at the end of like a tiny little piece or something like that. So now you can snap to the edge. It makes things a little bit easier there. So that's an update to the component maker. And then the box wizard. We've also added a new option for the box wizard. So if you've ever used the box wizard or the box maker before, there's a new wizard now to go with it that you can easily kind of go through step by step and change some of the options for creating a simple box. You can it's useful for making shipping boxes, boxes with pull-out cabinets or drawers, or any kind of a simple box where you just need to create those parts to have available to you. So kind of in a nutshell, that's Enroute 23. There's a lot of other little things here and there. I kind of wanted to hit the big highlights. We think there's a lot of things in this version, along with a lot of other bug fixes and changes and things like that as well. So if you haven't had a chance to check out Enroute 23, I would highly suggest that you download the latest version. We are in the progress of making sure that this is the stable and as useful as possible. And we think you guys are going to like these new features that we've added, make your workflow better, and make your projects better. Again, if you need help with downloading or installing the new version, feel free to contact our technical support. They can help you with that and get you up to date and get all of your settings transferred over from your old version. So if you're using 6 or 7, Enroute has the ability to load settings from a previous version. So if you want help with that, let our tech support know. They'd be glad to help you, or if you have any issues with the software.